Hi guys, Dr. Mel. We're busy with organic chemistry and we've covered all the different functional groups. So you know the names, you know how to structure and how to draw them and how they are different from each other. Now we're going to have a look at the intermolecular forces, which depends on obviously the structure and which is different in every of the functions that we did, the functional groups. Now let's have a look. You did intermolecular forces earlier in a previous lesson structure. So go and have a look at that, revise that. We're just going to touch on some of them. But let's start with that. Intermolecular is between molecules, and you cannot do intermolecular if you don't understand that a molecule has got one or two atoms that's bound to each other. So remember, you also find interatomic forces, which is in between small particles, 2, 3, 5, 10 in terms of the atoms. So that's the atom. Now what we have is the periodic table. You know, in the periodic table, we've got two main groups. You know that that line there signifies that these ones will be the non-metals, and the rest of the periodic table will be the metals. So that's where we start. So when one metal atom, a metal atom, like for instance sodium, binds to a non-metal like chlorine, you'll find an ionic bond. And I'm not going to go through that lesson now, but you have to know that sodium will lose an electron to form an ion. Chlorine will get an electron added. And let me just do that completely so that you understand. That will be a negative ion. And because that's a negative and a positive charge, you'll have electrostatic attraction, and therefore I find an ionic bond. There's a different bond between a non-metal and another non-metal. Remember, we did Lewis structures. So let's say we've got oxygen. It's got two full pairs of electrons and two single electrons. So if I have something like hydrogen, which you are very acquainted with one electron, it will form a shared pair. And this shared pair, guys, that there is called a covalent bond. It's like taking your own meat and drinks to a braai, because you're going to take somebody else's salad, or you're going to share something. So everybody is bringing something. Covalent, company, coordination, it's always together. So I've got ionic bonds and covalent bonds between atoms. Please bear in mind that it's between atoms. When I have a look at the periodic table, I now know that the non-metals here will be covalent bonds. Now it's important that those covalent bonds isn't exactly the same between the different atoms. So let's have a look at the intermolecular. So now we've got molecules, and what's going to happen now when one H2O binds to another OH. Can you see there? And I'm just putting in the shared electron pairs there. Can you see and can you recall that you now have this molecule and that molecule, and you'll find a specific bond there. So it's weaker than the interatomic because it's between two molecules. But the very strong bond is obviously that one there, because it's inside the molecule. The ones that we're going to work with in organic chemistry is the organic molecules. So you'll find we're going to have a look at the covalent bond between one carbon and another carbon. We're going to have a look at the covalent bond between a carbon and a hydrogen. And we're going to have a look at the bond between a carbon and an oxygen. So these are the 4 covalent bonds that you'll have to know. Now let's quickly revise. How do I know how it looks like? I need to know the electron negativity. Now, if you go back to your periodic table, you'll find the electron negativity of carbon there, the oxygen there, and the hydrogen there. Now, let's write it down. If you take your periodic table, have a look with me. You'll see carbon is 2.5, sorry. So it's 2.5 and 2.5 for each carbon. Another carbon, 2.5, if I could just do that. And I've got hydrogen with 2.1. Here I've got carbon again, 2.5, and I've got oxygen with 3.5. Now, what does that tell me? It says there's 2 electrons in between these 2 atoms. It's equally shared here because it's 2.5 and 2.5, which means it's a non-polar molecule. This is not equally shared, so it's a little polar or dipole, but you can see that's not a huge difference. However, this side has a difference of 1. The difference is 1. So this side will have the negative or the 2 electrons more to the oxygen and less to the carbon, and this side will be positive. So it's important, guys, that you need to revise your intermolecular forces that we've done earlier in this grade. Hydrogen bonds is the first one we find. Now let's quickly see. You know the van der Waals forces. Those are the collective name. Van der Waal was the guy that was named because the work that he's done with this. There's 3 types of this. A dipole, and we touched that just now, and I'm going to show you an example now. An induced dipole. It means it's non-polar, and you'll also remember that you heard the word London forces. And then finally, the hydrogen bond. These 3 will be the ones that we use in organic. Let's have a look at the hydrogen bond. Firstly, it's a hydrogen, can you see there? Hydrogen bound to either nitrogen, either oxygen, or either fluorine. Now, if you have a look at your periodic table, you'll see I've got nitrogen there, oxygen there, and fluorine there. The electron negativity of nitrogen is 3, it's 3. Oxygen is 3.5, fluorine is 4. Now, in terms of hydrogen, which is 2.1, you can see there's a huge difference between the electron negativity. So what happens, that 1 electron of the hydrogen will be actually inclined to circle or orbit around either nitrogen or oxygen or fluorine much more than it will orbit around the hydrogen. Now, in that case, it's important to know that then it's only the nucleus that remains here on the hydrogen, which means it's a very, very positive side, this side. And because that electron is more inclined to be orbiting around this will be a very negative side. It's a dipole, but it's a very strong dipole, and therefore we call it a hydrogen bond because the hydrogen atom is very small and it's got a high electron negativity, the nitrogen, the oxygen, and the fluorine. And they're very small, meaning it's very near to their nucleus. So it's important that you know the hydrogen bond, and I know it. I say it's NOF, and NOF is then bound to the hydrogen. So hydrogen bonds in terms of organic, let's have a look. It's the hydrogen. It's a short distance. It's a very, very strong bond, and we find it, for instance, in carboxylic acids. Now, can I remind you quickly, a carboxylic acid looks like that. Can you see where the hydrogen bond is? Can you see? Here's going to be a hydrogen bond. And what happens as soon as that is near another carboxylic acid, there's also going to be a hydrogen bond. Now, this diagram, can you see there? The hydrogen, oxygen there, and there I've got a hydrogen and a oxygen. That's hydrogen bond 1. Here I've got another oxygen and a hydrogen. hydrogen bond 2. Therefore, guys, this is the strongest intermolecular forces in the organic chemistry. There's another organic chemistry function where we can find a hydrogen bond, and that is with the alcohol, carboxylic acid, and then the alcohol. And you know it because you know there's a hydrogen and there's an oxygen. So you can see there won't be any hydrogen bonds, but at the end there, you'll find the alcohol will also have a hydrogen bond. And again, it's the strongest. So you need to know that because you're going to apply that principle now. A dipole-dipole. A dipole-dipole is between dipoles. It's a polar molecule. It means the electron is somewhere near some other functional group. It's got a difference in electron negativity, and we usually find it in haloalkanes, as I drew it there, or in an aldehyde, a ketone or ester, where you've got your oxygen. Remember, the hydrogen is not important here. We've got the carbon with either the oxygen or the halogen, and you find it's dipole, meaning there's a difference in the electron negativity. Let's see how we can show it to you. It can be non-polar. It's temporary. Let me just have a look at that. Now, that's the next one. So, we have here the last one. It's temporary. Have a look at this. I've got methane. Can you see there? It's got no sides. If I draw another methane, it will share just those electrons inside, and it is non-polar. There's no specific negative or positive side. It can be temporarily. So what happens here, and I'm going to quickly show you, these electrons shared there might rotate around and at some stage be this side. And if it's that side, it's negative, which means this side is positive. That means if this side is negative of this molecule, can you see there? Temporary. It's like a real movement, and it's very temporary. As it moves around in this cloud, it's just for that moment that that electron is not there. It's the weakest, and that we find in all the alkanes and alkenes, and specifically the alkyls. So here you see I've got a propane there and another propane, and that bond there is very weak depending on this cloud. Right, the strength you've got to know. The first one is the hydrogen. We said it's the strongest. Then the dipole, and then the induced dipole, the one where it moves, which is also named the London forces. Now, guys, you need to know which of the organic compounds have those specific bonds. Now, I'm going to draw it here, but you can have a look at any textbook, any summary will give that to you as well. Remember, we said here will be the carboxylic acids and the alcohols. Please make sure that you know this is stronger than that one. The dipole will be the haloalkanes. It will be the aldehydes. It will be the ketones. And it will be the esters. And then finally, the induced dipole or London will be all the alkanes and all the alkenes. So important that you know which one is the stronger one after you identified them. Now there's another factor. Firstly, we need to know what's the strength of the intermolecular forces. Secondly, the size or the length will also impact on the physical property, which is the boiling point or the melting point. And then the number of branches, and then finally the number of functional groups. Now let's have a look at each of those. Firstly, the strength. We said hydrogen stronger than dipole, stronger than London or induced dipole. That we know. Secondly, the molecular size or chain length. The longer the chain, the greater the mass. That we know. If I have 3 or 4, let's say we've got 3, we can see the mass of the butane will be more than the propane. It will have also, can you see if I've got another molecule because it's intermolecular? Can you see there? I've got that bond there. It would be much stronger than one with just 3. Have a look at that, and we can say it's like glue. If I've got a long stretch of glue sticking that together, it's stuck there, it will be more energy to use to break that bond than to do that one. So it's important, guys, that you know that the more length it has, the longer it gets, the stronger the bond is. The second factor, the number of branches. If I've got one with just one branch there, it will obviously be different to one with no branch. Just have a look there. And again, you'll have to see it as glue. Can you see here? That one there has got that, and here I've got glue there. So that surface area there is less contact there than this whole one here. So it's weaker if you've got branches on them. Finally, the number of functional groups. Number of branches, but also the number of functional groups. If I've got, for instance, one of these, let's say there, and I've got another one with, say, for instance, 2. Can you see there? You've got more stronger hydrogen bonds there than in this case. So have a look at the summary. I'll give you the summary just now. You will see that it has an impact on obviously the phase and then on the boiling and melting point, which we are going to discuss just now. I'm going to go back to the slide where we named the 3. The strength, you've got to know. The size or the length, the molecular size, which is the mass, this length, then the branches, and then the number of functional groups. Now, the physical properties will be, is it a gas? Is it a liquid? Is it a solid? You know the gaseous molecules will have weaker intermolecular forces than the liquid, which is nearer, and the solid, which is the nearest. Boiling point, the melting point, changing, firstly, boiling, taking the liquid to the gas, that's the boiling point. And we are going to do the definition just now, a solid taking that to the liquid, which is the melting point. So I need energy to do that. And if it's a very strong bond, then obviously we'll have to use more energy. I'm going to explain vapor pressure just now. It's in actual fact how fast does the gas become, or the liquid become a gas. So it's the gas molecules actually exerting a pressure. Viscosity will be the resistance to flow. If a liquid, like for instance syrup or honey, it's resisting flow, so it's got a greater viscosity. And then solubility will be if it can actually dissolve or not in a non-polar solvent. So these are the factors that can influence the physical properties. Right, let's have a look at the 3 ones that's usually asked. Firstly, boiling point. You need to know the definitions. So the boiling point, guys, is the temperature. That's the first thing. Of what? Of the gas, as soon as it's the same, the boiling point, as soon as the gas, because it's a liquid going to a gas, as soon as the vapor pressure, meaning the gas molecules there, have the same vapor pressure, which is Pascal, that's equal to the atmospheric pressure. Then a liquid boils. When the vapor pressure is equal to atmospheric pressure, at that temperature, it's boiling. The melting point, it's easy. It is the temperature where a solid, you remember, it's solid there, turns into a liquid, and not just that temperature, where that temperature is when they are in equilibrium, which we've done in the chapter of equilibrium. And then finally, the vapor pressure is the pressure of the gas, that is obviously when it goes from a liquid to the gas, you find a vapor pressure. Right, can you define the isomer? Do you know what the different intermolecular forces are? And can you do the different van der Waals forces? Do you know what's the difference between dipole, induced dipole, and hydrogen bond? And finally, can you name all the factors that's going to change the intermolecular forces? The strength, you've got to know, the chain length, the branches, and the functional groups. Go and study this. It's in all the textbooks. You can find in all the papers. In the next class, we are actually going to do a question that's asked on the physical properties. Bye.